Welcome back everyone. Imagine being able to call your friend in Spain at zero extra cost, study in France on EU grants, swim in crystal-clean Mediterranean beaches, and enjoy rock-solid consumer rights. From phone calls abroad costing nearly zero, to student exchanges that change lives, to cleaner beaches and rock-solid consumer rights. That's the EU in action. Today we're asking, what has the EU really ever done for us? Spoiler, way more than Brexit headlines let on. Stick around, because we'll bust myths, spotlight real wins, and even hear from both sides of the debate. And hey, drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and hit subscribe, because if you love deep dives, you're in the right place. Let's rewind to June 2017, before Roam Like at Home. A minute of calling abroad could cost you nearly €1. Calling your mum in Spain could cost you a small fortune. That all but ended in June 2017, when roaming charges within the EU were capped to zero. Today, making calls or using data across all 27 member states costs exactly the same as at home, and over 200 million Europeans travel without worrying about surprise roaming bills. Think about that next time you scroll Instagram in Paris or call your grandma in Lisbon. However, some critics say telecom giants absorbed the cost and passed it to us in other fees. Okay, let's look at the numbers. Average domestic plans only rose by about 1 or 2% across major EU markets in the following 2 years. That's a small price for seamless connectivity across 27 countries. Is abolishing roaming fees enough, or should the EU push for universal, free public Wi-Fi too? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Since 1987, Erasmus Plus has helped over 10 million students and teachers swap classrooms across Europe. That's not just fancy CV fodder, it's real cultural exchange, higher language skills, and lifetime friendships. Picture this: a Greek engineering student who built a startup in Berlin thanks to Erasmus mentorship, or a Spanish art major finding her voice in Stockholm. A 2023 survey found 95% of Erasmus participants felt it boosted their career prospects. The EU budgets over €26 billion for Erasmus, more slots, more grants, more life-changing memories. However, some argue it's elitist and favored by students with enough cash to travel. That may have once been true, but recent reforms introduced extra grants and simplified applications for underrepresented groups. Plus, the EU invested €26 billion in the 2021 to 2027 Erasmus budget to expand access. Would you support universal study abroad vouchers for every EU citizen? Let me know below. You know those gorgeous beaches in Greece or Croatia? Have you ever wondered why the Mediterranean beaches are so clean? Well, that's down to EU directives on water quality that set strict limits on pollutants, and member states must report this annually. With the EU's Bathing Water Directive setting strict pollutant limits and annual public reporting, over 90% of EU coastal sites now achieve excellent blue flag ratings. In Turkey's Aegean coast alone, red-flagged beaches became blue flag winners in just 5 years, proof that standards and funding work hand in hand. However, enforcement can be patchy. Some regions still struggle with agricultural runoff. But the EU's €20 billion LIFE program funds green projects across every member state, from rewetting peatlands in Ireland to tackling plastics in the Baltic. Is voluntary blue flag certification enough, or should the EU fine repeat polluters? Let me know below. In most EU countries, your maximum workweek is capped at 48 hours, and you're guaranteed at least 4 weeks of paid holiday leave thanks to the EU's Working Time Directive. Plus, maternity leave is a minimum of 14 weeks, and newer rules support paternity leave, carers leave, and transparent contracts. After Spain limited factory shifts to 48 hours, overtime injuries dropped by half, real lives improved by EU law. However, critics say one-size-fits-all rules hamper competitiveness in lower-income members. But studies show that healthier work-life balance boosts productivity by 10 to 15%. And cross-border labor standards help curb social dumping. Should the EU also set a pan-EU minimum wage? Let's debate in the comments. Ever returned a faulty toaster months after buying it and received a full refund? In the EU, you've got a 2-year mandatory warranty, no questions asked. And since 2018, the GDPR gives those in the EU full control over their personal data, the right to access, correct, erase, or port it. No giant corporation can abuse your info without consequence. Global giants from Google to Facebook now apply GDPR principles worldwide, raising privacy standards for everyone. However, some small businesses complain GDPR is costly to implement. This is true, but GDPR fines have pushed global companies to adopt better practices worldwide, raising privacy standards everywhere. Should we extend GDPR-style rules to the US and beyond? Drop your thoughts. The single market is a €15 trillion economy with zero tariffs among members, and a customs union covering over 70 partner countries. It boosts EU exports by over 30% compared to non-EU peers, and saves businesses an estimated €121 billion per year in red tape. SMEs love it. A small chocolatier in Paris now ships to Madrid and Warsaw with one-stop digital customs paperwork. Now that's convenience. However, some argue common standards stifle local brands. But harmonized rules mean SMEs can scale across 27 markets without rewriting labels or retesting products. Is deepening the single market more important than new free trade deals? Let us know below. Before we dive into defense, health, and other benefits, drop a comment to help the debate. Smash that like button if you want more deep dives. And subscribe to see more content. EU cooperation on defense has grown under PESCO, the Permanent Structured Cooperation, which today runs over 62 joint defense projects, from cybersecurity to medevac drones and energy-efficient barracks. PESCO funds €8 billion in collaborative R&D. While NATO remains the primary military alliance, EU-led procurement pools lower costs and spur innovation. However, critics say defense is a national competence, not a Brussels job. But collective procurement means lower costs. Fighter jets, drones, even energy-efficient barracks all benefit from lower costs. Would you back an EU army, or stick with NATO as is? Let us know in the comments. Between 2014 and 2020, the EU invested €392 billion to lift the poorest regions including roads in Bulgaria, digitization in rural Portugal and youth entrepreneurship in Poland. Broadband rollout in rural Bulgaria cut local unemployment by 5%, and youth entrepreneur grants in Poland created thousands of startups. Stricter audits now ensure fewer ghost projects and more real roads, and real lives, changed. However, some complain funds get misspent. That's why the EU introduced stricter audits and performance-based grants, so you'll see real roads, not ghost projects. Should net contributor countries demand faster results? Tell us why or why not. The Cross-Border Healthcare Directive lets you access public health to get high-quality medical treatment anywhere in the EU at no cost or be reimbursed by your home country. During COVID-19, the EU's joint vaccine procurement secured doses faster and at lower cost than if each country went solo. Would you support a permanent EU vaccine stockpile? Let me know with a comment. Horizon Europe, the EU's research framework, has a budget of €95.5 billion for 2021 to 27. Flagship projects include the Graphene Initiative and the European Green Hydrogen Partnerships, world-leading science funded by EU grants. The Graphene Initiative is a European Union scientific research initiative. With a budget of €1 billion, it is one of the large-scale initiatives organized by the Future and Emerging Technologies Program, along with the Human Brain Project and the Quantum Technologies Flagship. Through a combined academic-industrial consortium, the research effort attempts to develop technologies which range from basic research to production and system integration, using the unique properties of graphene. European green hydrogen partnerships are collaborations focused on developing and deploying clean hydrogen technologies within Europe and with international partners. The Clean Hydrogen Partnership aims to accelerate research, development, and innovation in hydrogen technologies. These partnerships play a vital role in achieving the EU's climate goals by decarbonizing energy systems and industrial processes. Should we channel more EU funds into green tech over defense R&D? Write your thoughts below. From roaming-free phones to cross-border e-commerce to pan-EU e-health records, the digital single market removes digital borders and unlocks services everywhere. GAIA, European Cloud, is a European cloud initiative to rival AWS and GCP, aimed at reducing big tech dependency and ensuring data sovereignty for businesses big and small. However, data flow restrictions can scare investors. But a harmonized rulebook also means one-stop compliance for startups scaling Europe-wide, sparking over €200 billion in venture capital since 2019. Should the EU break up big tech, or regulate them tighter? Chime in. So, what have we learned? From zero roaming fees to global data rights, from student exchanges to regional revitalization, the EU's footprint touches every part of our lives and often is underappreciated. Which EU achievement surprised you most? Or what do you think needs fixing? Hit the comments, let's get that debate rolling. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more big picture breakdowns.